وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، يكبره تكبيرا.
الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر.
الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في عمله. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الكاشف بالخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه، ولا يزيد كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة لي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديمة، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفك عن ظلمي، سترك عن قبله عملي، وحيك عن كثير يومي. عندما كان من خطايا وعمدي، أطاعني في أن أسألك ما أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك. فصرت أدعوك آمنا، وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، دلا عليك فيما كسبت فيه إليك. فإن أبت عني أتبت بجحيم عليك، ولعل الذي أبت عني هو خير من علمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أرى مولا كريما أصبر على عبد عليم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتقرب إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأنني أتتول عليك، ولم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة والإحسان إلي، وتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل، وجل عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك، مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح، إيان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، الحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، الحمد لله على طول عناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق، خالق الإصباح، الجلال والإكرام، الفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرام، وقرب فشهد النجوام، تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادل، ولا شبيه يشاكل، ولا ظهير عابد قهر بعزته العزام فتواضع لعظمته العظماء فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيب المكان ويستر علي كل عوج وأنا أعصيه ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازي. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وضحكة مولفة قد أراني وأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يحتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين يرفع المستضعفين يضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبين الظالمين مدرك الحاربين ذكار الظالمين شريف المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمر المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأحد الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي ولي المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبي العظيم. صل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين وصل على سبتي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي وخلف الحادي المهدي وجدك على عبادك وأولئك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم صل على ولي أمرك المقام المؤمن والعدل المنتظر وحبه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائل بدينك. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبلي. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له. أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا. يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به. انصره وانتصر به. انصره نصرا عزيزا. افتح له فتحا يسيرا. واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي شيئا من الحق مخافة أهل من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا بالحق فحملنا وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المن به شعفنا وشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فقنا وكثر به قلتنا وأعزز به ذلتنا وأغني به عائلنا وقضي به مع مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلدنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به عسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعطنا به سؤلنا بلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسلمين وأوسع المعطين. اشفي به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. انصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وخيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عدلنا وشدة الفتنة وتظاهر الزمان علينا. صل على محمد وآله وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجل وبضر تكشف ونصر تعز وسلطان حق تظهر ورحمة منك تجلناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام وقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة وقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف وقال يا فاطمة ائتني من كساء يماني فغأتني به فأتيته من كساء يماني وغطيته به وسرت نذر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمام وكمال فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبلا وقال السلام عليك يا أمه وقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عين وثمرة فؤادي وقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله وقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء وأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله أتأذنني أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء وقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد علمت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء وما كانت المساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه وقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي وقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء ودنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا السلام عليك يا من اقتضى الله أتأذنوني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء وقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معكما تحت الكساء
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
أقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله فقلت نعم هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذنوني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيم وخليفتي وصاحب لواي قد علمت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذنوني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بدعتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف انكسار وهما بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحرمتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرم لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن صالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم واجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم رجسا وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
وقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء وقال الأمين جبريل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء وقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن رسالتي هم قادمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها.
اللهم صل على محمد
فقال جبريل يا ربي أتأذنوني أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك فهبط الأمين جبريل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى يغنيك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا نارا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فلتأذنوني يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك فدخل جبريل معنا تحت الكساء وقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني عن جلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما كان خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الله وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إن ونزلت عليهم رحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرتهم إلى أن يتفرقوا وقال علي رضا الله يحفظنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة وقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني من رسالتي نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل النار وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيه المأمون منا وفرج الله عنا ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما ولا طالب حاجة منا وخذ الله حاجته فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة
اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
کاری زینب غریب رو یتیم کہتے لوگ हमको बताओ या मुर्तज़ा कहाँ हो बताओ या मुर्तज़ा कहाँ हो यतीम कहते लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो यतीम कहते लोग हमको ना गम में इतना भूलाओ बाबा सदा तुम अपनी सुनाओ बाबा कहाँ से धारे हुआ बाबा कहाँ से धारे हुआ बाबा यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको प्रचार करते बाई शब्र हुसैन रोते सर पतक कर बने न किस तरह खाक मुँह पर बने न किस तरह खाक मुँह पर यतीम कहते लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो यतीम कहते लोग हमको सितम है या अबू तुराब के साथ हुआ है जीना अज़ाब के साथ दिया है तुमने किताब के साथ दिया है तुमने किताब के साथ यतीम कहते लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो यतीम कहते लोग हमको निकल के तुरबत से आओ अम्मा हमें गले से लगाओ अम्मा कहाँ है बाबा बताओ अम्मा कहाँ है बताओ अम्मा यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो रो यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको जहाँ में अब जी के क्या करें हम फलक किससे गिला करें हम कहो कहाँ तक सुना करें हम कहो कहाँ तक सुना करें हम यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो रो यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको ना इब्ने मुलजिम ने रहम खाया सितम का देवा तुम्हें लगाया उठा है जब से तुम्हारा साया उठा है जब से तुम्हारा साया यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको पुकारी ज़ैनब गरीब रो रो यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको बताओ या मुर्तज़ा कहाँ हो बताओ या मुर्तज़ा कहाँ हो यतीम कहते ये लोग हमको सलवा
माशाअल्लाह।
बुलंद नारे सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
उठ गया बाप का सर से साया आज सना यतीम हो गई आज सना यतीम हो गई घर में फर्श अज़ाब चिर गया है खाना रग मातम कपा है सोग में डूबा घर सैयदा का आज ज़ैनब यतीम हो गई उठ रहा है जनाज़ा का एक महशर का आलम का बरपा सबके होठों पे था एक नोहा आज ज़ैनब यतीम हो गई रो रहे हैं ये मेहराब मिंबर कह रहे हैं ये जिब्रील रोकर इब्ने मुलजिम ने ये सुन मिटाया आज ज़ैनब यतीम हो गई अर्श पर मुस्तफा रो रहे हैं सब से सब अंबिया रो रहे हैं रिश्तों में कोहराम बरपा आज ज़रा यतीम हो गई कोई कुल्सुम को दे दिलासा और तड़पती है गम से खदीजा मौला पास करते हैं नोहा आज ज़रा यतीम हो गई खबर में फातिमा भी है मुस्तर कर रही है ये फरियाद रोकर बख्त के साए ज़ैनब पे आया आज ज़रा यतीम हो गई उठ गया बाप का सर से साया आज ज़रा यतीम हो गई
आवाज़ बुलंद आ रहे सलावत
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद
सल्ली अला मुहम्मद
भारतीय सभा
सल्ली अला
मोहम्मद
मौला अली की शहादत पढ़े चंद अशआर में उस घर की कैफियत बताना चाहूंगा जिस घर से बच्चों के सिरों से वापस आया और बाप भी अली जैसा कि जिसके लिए एक शायर ने कहा मुस्तफ़े इलाही की जब कभी तिलावत की यूं लगा कसीदा ये पढ़ रहा अली का चंद अशआर हो गई हो गई कम है अब रोए जिस कदर ज़ैनब हो गई आज है फर्श गम पे है फर्श गम पे है अज़ा, बाप के गम में नौहगर ज़ैनब हो गई हिल रहा है मजार रोती है, हिल रहा है मजार रोती है, माँ की तुरबत पे खोले सर हो गई कम है अब रोए जिस कदर हो गई इब्तदा है अभी तो कूफे में, इब्तदा है अभी तो कूफे में, तुझको होना है दर बदर ज़ैनब हो गई आबे दर ज़ैनब रोक लो अपने आंसुओं को जरा, रोक लो अपने आंसुओं को जरा, अब तो रोना है उम्र भर ज़ैनब हो गई करते हैं जिस तरह यतीम बसर, करते हैं जिस तरह यतीम बसर, अब करो उम्र यूं बसर ज़ैनब हो गई आबे ज़ैनब कम है अब रोए जिस कदर
जज़ाकल्लाह।
Only a quick announcement, inshallah. Tomorrow, please join us for all-night Aman of Shahadath. Further program will start at 6:30 p.m. Tomorrow. Inshallah, we have a program for the night. The program will be posted on our WhatsApp group with all the timings and everything. So please watch those announcements. Before we request Maran for the speech, just please quick request for the Fatiha for the Marhumin of tonight's sponsors. And also by Rahman, please.
आवाज़ें बुलंद सलावत
اللهم صل على
محمد Just one more announcement, inshallah, we have a special program tonight at 9:15 p.m. So please join us for that. The topic is parenting, issues we have and challenges for youth and for parents, inshallah.
And for the well-being of the community, another Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
And final Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad for the hastened appearance of Imam Salat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم به نستعين. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فلا. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى كتابه الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قد خلت من قبلكم سنن فسيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. هذا بيان للناس وهدى وموعظة للمتقين. ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost, I give my condolences to you again on the occasion which we are commemorating. That is the Shahadath of Imam al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And as we began last night to discuss the third aspect of human needs that we need to find balance in, and that is with regards to our strength and our individual strength. It is a need in which we mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verses 137 to 139 of Surah Ali Imran, so chapter 3 of the Quran, verses 137 to 139. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of ties together the first two concepts as well. The first concept is about having some sort of creativity or positive outlet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that yes, you can use that positive outlet. One of those things being traveling, as Allah says, siru fil ard. The other is to find security. Who does he talk to? Who is being addressed in this verse? Mu'mineen. Again, the mu'mineen are those who will guarantee safety and security for others. He adds another aspect to this as well, and this is part of what the mu'mineen, those who have faith, those who have belief, that they strive to be also the muttaqin. So when we travel in the earth as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that we will see many things. Observe what has happened. Observe the state of things, or if you see the ancient artifacts, then remember the people to whom they belong. And for everyone, there will be some sort of, say, interest in it. هذا بيان للناس. But the believer, the muttaqin, is not only something of interest, but it is something that whereby they take lessons and guidance from. وَهُدًى وَمَوْعِظَةٌ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And when you take lessons from the people who have gone before you, and especially those who rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's revelation, and we see some of the effects in some of the ancient villages and these other things, the pyramids, for example. When we see that, then know that you have something very special about yourselves. And this is where our strength, it lies, in that thing which we have, and that is being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why He says, وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ, but the condition is in kuntum mu'minin. Your status is much higher. So therefore, your individual strength, as is often mentioned in Western perception, that your individual strength is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because it is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then for no reason should you have low self-esteem. For no reason should you go into this cycle of depression. But know that, yes, you will face difficulties. Everyone faces difficulties, whether you believe or don't believe. This is a part of life. As we mentioned, the short and brief statement of Imam Ali says, Yawmun laka wa yawmun alayk. That one day is in your favor, the other day it's not. The other day you're going to face some difficulties. But we should maintain that balance in our strength, because if we go out of balance, the fear is that either we become arrogant, oh yeah, we are confident, but we are overconfident, and that will destroy us. As Imam Ali alayhi wasallam said, that person who arrogance has entered into his or her heart, it will be destroyed. That individual strength, if we separate it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say, oh, hey, we know better. We know better than what the Prophet says. And in fact, this is the context in which the verses that I recited, verses 137 to 139, which they were revealed to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that was during the Battle of Uhud. When we look at what the circumstances were, mu'mineen, they went into the battle with the mushrikeen. And of course, they were a small group of individuals. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says it in the Quran, that 10 of you will defeat 100 of them. Meaning the strength of the believer, like one individual, the battle 10 people. You have the strength of 2 people. So there was somewhat of an amazing victory that the believers they had in the battle of Badr. And when they came to the battle of Uhud, Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated that, oh, well, in this battle, what we need to do is we need to make sure that there's some people who are posted on the mountain and don't leave the mountain, no matter what happens. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also speaks about this, that when that battle started, and then at least the first part of that battle, where there seemed to be victory in the hands of the Muslims. But what happened? Some people got ahead of themselves. So, oh, hey, we won the battle. Why do we need to stay on the mountain? You know, all of the war booty is here. The spoils of war are there. And if we stay on the mountain, what will happen? We're going to miss out on the spoils of war. So rather than listening to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Then they came off of it. And when they came off, then what happened? Then the tables turned. When the Mushrikeen saw that those who were posted on the mountain, they left, then there was a group that came from around the mountain. There was no one there to ward them off. And so now that battle, it turns upside down. Kind of an apparent defeat, you say, for the Muslim. But even in that situation where it seems that there's a defeat, these individuals, and Allah says it, that, oh, they got ahead of themselves. In other words, they took iftikhar with their situation. Oh, you know, Allah is with us. Well, Rasulullah, he said something, but you know what? I kind of know better here. Let's go down and secure our worldly gains from this world. So they got ahead of themselves, overconfident, and which led to their defeat. But even in that situation of defeat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not destroy the self-esteem of the believers. Subhanallah. He says, even with that kind of apparent defeat, He says, وَأَنْتُمْ أَعْلَمُ. Ya Rasulullah, tell them this. They suffered a defeat, but you still have that high status. In kuntum mu'minin. Don't lose faith. At the first sign of difficulties, at the first sign of what seems to be apparent failure, don't now, oh, I want to wash my hands of this. Know that as long as you maintain that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your status can be elevated and will be elevated. Salawat. And this goes along with, again, these last nights that we are in as well, these nights of Ramadan, and at least among the 3 most recommended nights of the nights of Qadr, we have one left. But other than that, in these last few nights, it's recommended to make dua, to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The odd nights, or the eve of the odd nights, will come and we'll have the A'mal for the 23rd, but even the 25th to 27th, it's recommended to do A'mal as well. And maybe those are moments we can kind of take a moment for ourselves and really, kind of make that dua from our heart. Okay, yeah, we don't have a program in the center on the 25th night or 27th night, but we could sit, after we leave the Majlis, whatever, we can sit and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our own language, that language of our heart, and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that dua is effective. To sit and reflect, perhaps when no one can see you, and really think that, when I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawbah and repentance, what exactly have I done? Did I really need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness? And in that moment, no one will see you cry, shed tears. No one will see you wailing and sincerely connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes within gatherings, we may be embarrassed to think about those things. Oh yeah, I did this. Ya Allah, you know what I did. But in those nights, yes, no one's around. I'm in a room by myself, even my spouse or my children. Ya Allah, you know. You remember that time that I did this. Oh Allah, if you don't forget, who will? We don't have to say it in Arabic, whatever language. That language from the heart. Because if we fail to do this, subhanAllah, this idea of being out of balance in our individual strength, it becomes out of whack. Why? Because we have become too proud to actually make dua to Allah, to beg Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions this about the characteristic of the believer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قَالَ رَبُّكُمْ أُدْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُوا جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that your Lord has told you, He's explained to us now. This is call upon him. He's not saying call upon him in Arabic. He's not saying call upon him in language of Rasulullah or the Imams. Yeah, their du'as are eloquent, because again, that's their status. We start from where we're at. If it's oh, well, you know, even if I'm mumbling, I don't know, ya Allah. But Allah knows our heart, that yes, we're making this sincerely from our heart. Allah hears it, He knows. Call upon Allah, and He will answer, He will respond. Because those who are too proud, kind of overconfident about, oh, you know what? No, I just did my mile on the 19th, the eve of the 19th, eve of the 21st, eve of the 23rd. Hey, I'm good. But we're too proud to sit and truly beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when there's no one around, that our hearts really break and we talk to them. I didn't want to embarrass myself among everyone who were all together. But now, you know what? I'm going to embarrass myself in front of you a lot, because it's just me and you. I'm going to embarrass myself. You know what it is. And even we can say it and whisper to ourselves, because no one else is around. But Allah, you know what I did. It was this. Oh Allah, I know I shouldn't have done that. Help me. Because who else can help you? But if we become too proud to do that, Allah says, yeah, you're overconfident, and then just like that defeat in the battle of Uhud, the worst defeat will happen. That is the spiritual defeat. That our pride keeps us from making that type of dua. Our pride keeps us from at least making that intention to make that true change that we should make. Because those, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so those who are disdainful or too proud of my worship, they will eventually be humbled. But what are they humbled by? They're humbled by the hellfire. They refuse to humble themselves in this world, and they'll be humbled in the next world. So part of that, finding that balance within our, you can say, our strength, our individual strength, is truly connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, truly connecting to Him, so that we will humble our nafs in this world and not be so proud, like in the example Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He gives in the Quran. The son of Nuh, Prophet Noah, is building the ship, and his sons know. This is the son of a prophet. When it's time to get on that ship, the Prophet Noah, he says, come on board. What did the son say? Oh, you know what? There's a mountain over there, a really high mountain. I'm going to go on that mountain. That should be enough for me. Prophet Noah says, no. Allah says, get on the boat. If you don't get on the boat, you won't be spared. Oh, you know what? I know. It's really, really high. It's like Mount Everest. What good is going to do if we do not truly humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have the message. The son of Noah, he didn't have the excuse that, oh, hey, I didn't hear the message. He's living in the house of Noah. Perhaps he was also one of those sons who would always go to the market as well. When Noah, when he was delivering the message of Allah, people would throw stones at him. Want to talk about a hard day, a difficult day? That was a difficult day. Every day this would happen to him. And his sons would come and pull the rocks off. But when it came time to humble himself, that son says, no, I'm going to go into this mountain. So on one hand, if we are out of balance in our understanding of our individual strengths, we think that whatever we have in this world, whatever we have in this dunya, oh, this is all my effort. God forbid, we'll end up like the son of Noah. This is all me. I did this. I studied that hard. I'm the one that worked so hard that I got promoted like this in such a short time. It was me. I'm the one who understood this. No, we are disconnecting ourselves from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's that strength is an illusion. As we mentioned, that also we should not be to the extent that our self-worth is also so low that we don't make effort and strive to do better in our life, to make change in our life. This is why, as well, and I'm going to return back to that idea and concept of self-worth and tie it with, again, that idea, that concept of what exactly we do in these nights of Qadr, or these last nights of Ramadan. Because as Imam Ali, like he said, the worth of an individual, it's a very deep concept, but if we are not really paying attention to what Imam Ali states is saying, then we may kind of get a little bit of, get a little bit worried. Oh, my worth is the level of my ma'rifah, my understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we start comparing ourselves to Ayatul Bahjat, or we can compare ourselves to this Ayatul or that Ayatul, yes, we also, well, I don't have much worth. But it's not for us to compare ourselves to such individuals, but to strive as they did. Among these Urafat, this is written by the biography of one of the ulama, one of the Urafat, very saintly individual. And he said one year, as he's, again, trying to walk on this path of ma'rifat of Allah, this spiritual development, spiritual change, is one year. This was during the winter time, and the house was on a vacation at that moment. I think winter or summer. I think summer. And so they had some time off, and so he went back to his village. And so he had this habit, again, yes, he wanted to play Salatul Layl, pray the Tahajjud, Salat, and then stay up at night. It's night. Staying up at night is one of the precious moments that everyone's asleep. It's just you and Allah. Just like we read about the Munajat. While everyone's asleep, you're sitting there, you're whispering to Allah, you're praying to Allah. So he said that this is what he would do, and again, trying to perfect his spirituality. And so he would rest during the day. After Fajr, he prays his Father. After sunrise, he will take some rest. He says, one time he, as usual, stayed up during his hours, or went to sleep early, woke up really early in the morning, and he's doing his ibadat, his reading, studying, his reflecting, then he goes to sleep like after sunrise. But just so happens that day, his children were running around the house, making a lot of noise. They were young children, a lot of commotion. And so he couldn't sleep. And so he says, yeah, I got up in this kind of fit because I'm tired, and the kids are making all kinds of noise. I didn't get much rest. And he starts yelling at the kids, go outside. Don't play in here. Go outside. Do something. But let me get some sleep. So then, the kids eventually, they sadly went outside and they started playing. So probably needs to get some rest. He needs to get some sleep. So again, he carries on his routine, and he comes to this something where he's reading about spiritual development, this and that. And he realizes that, I need to understand this issue. So now I need to contact my teacher. That time, there were no phones at that time. So he decided, he says, well, the only way that I'll be able to contact him, I have to get a ticket, bus ticket. I need to take a trip. The trip is something like 12-hour bus ride. So 13-hour bus ride. So he gets a ticket on the weekend, goes 12-hour bus ride. And then finally he reaches to the house of his teacher to ask him this question. Again, this is how serious he was about, again, his spiritual development. Take a 12-hour ride to ask about one question, like two questions. What do I do with this? So when he reaches the door of his teacher, so his teacher's son, who was also in the crowd, says, my father said, go back home. And he says, the reason why you can't understand this issue is because you haven't apologized to your children. So his teacher told him to go back. He says, how can you be on this path and you interact with your children in that way? He says, correct that, and then you will understand this. But this Arif, this Alan who went through this moment, again, Rahmatullah alayhi, he's passed on, but his station, his ma'am, subhanAllah. One of our great I'll say his name so you his teacher said, no, go back. He said, how can you tread this path and you are treating your children in this way? He says, go back. He says, once you do that, then you'll understand. It'll come to you. So that means that in our endeavors, we have to start from where we're at, but make sure that the very small things that we are covering, the very small things, the things that we probably would take for granted and overlook. Oh yes, I read this, I read that, I read this, I read that. But that small thing that you should have done, you've overlooked. And that's what his teacher was talking about. You want to understand this grand concept that you couldn't understand when you're reading, but a very simple concept of how you are interacting with your own children. You got to get that right first before all of this will come right. You get that right, then yes, all this other, it will come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will make it flow. But get the simple things right first. Don't try to, when we start going to school, we don't start from physics. We start from simple mathematics, simple science. And then we work our way up to that level. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so that we will understand it. What are these special nights about? How do we actually connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We connect our strength, wherever it may be, we connect it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever our weaknesses are, and we know them very well, more than anyone else even if we're married, even we know them better than even our spouse. Although, yes, sometimes our spouses see some of our weaknesses and get on this. But we know them much better. It's those things that on the nights of Qadr, we need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the things that we actually need. All the other stuff, that will come. But if we have to get this correct, that, oh Allah, you know that this is my weakness. So give me that which will make me strong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will give. Especially if that dua is not just simply for what you want materially in this world, but that dua is for your self-improvement. Even if it is through some means of material. Oh Allah, I have this weakness, and we may think, and we may be very specific that this is a thing that I think will help. So Allah give me that, but in having this, it will make me stronger and more focused on me. This is how we truly make use of these nights. This is how we build our inner strength by connecting it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those things which we know that, oh Allah, you've given me this, and I've become more attached to you. Keep that for me. Oh Allah, I have trouble in this area. Oh Allah, give me something that will also, it will bring me back to you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about the believer, then you're on the higher plateau. And He says it again. He says in Surah Al-Munafiqun, best surah. Again, comparing that. Look at those individuals who are completely lack a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or they pretend to have a connection with Allah, but they really don't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Al-Izzah means dignity. Al-Izzah is also interpreted as strength. Where does strength lie? That if you want to be strong as an individual, then know that as long as you're in that line with whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given power and strength to, then yes, you're fine. But we have to start from where we're at. We have to tap into and know that, oh, well, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Where do I falter? Where do I begin to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where do I begin to drift? No, Allah, give me what I need in this dunya, whether it may be spiritual understanding or whether it may be something physical, tangible. Give me that thing which will be connected to you and actually strengthen that is strengthen my self-esteem, my self-worth. It will elevate my self-worth. Because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in one place, He says, Al-izzatu lillah jami'ah. The izzah is only for Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives out that izzah as well. He gives out that strength to His Prophet and to the believers. And how does this connect with the nights of Qadr and these last nights of Ramadan? It connects in a sense, as we mentioned, that simplified it yesterday a bit, but I'm going to make it even more simple. Mashallah. Sheikh Mutahari gave a very good example to make this idea and this concept very simple about free will and predestination. He says, if you want to understand what this is, in very, very, very simple terms, that idea, concept of predestination, oh, things are kind of on a fixed trajectory. He says, just think about the universal laws. So that's kind of what, in very simple terms, that's predestination. One example, fire burns, does it not? You set something on fire, whatever's in that fire, is it going to burn or not? It's going to burn. You put your hand in that fire, it's going to burn. When we set that fire, that universal law is going to be in effect. Free will now is ourselves making a decision. Am I going to touch that hot pot? Or am I going to touch that fire without one of those gloves on it? Am I going to take something out of the oven without putting my protection on or not? We can decide to do what we want to do. That's their free will. Now, if we grab that hot pan or baking pan out of the oven without any gloves on, what's going to happen? We're going to burn our hands. We may even drop the pot. That's your free will. What is determined? Universal laws are set. As we mentioned that in the nights of Qadr, we have some determination in our destiny. Right? So how does this work? When we make our dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, certain things may happen, we may be granted our needs. But under universal law, it may take a long time to actually achieve those things. But when we connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's strength, those things which may take years, sometimes it may take a lifetime to achieve or to obtain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it happen very simple and quick. Let's go back to that same example of the fire. Fire burns, right? But there's a place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his servant, was being tossed into the fire. Ibrahim. And Ibrahim, what did he do? Ya Allah, you know, if you wanted to burn me, then hey, that's fine. But I don't think my mission for you is finished. If it is, then okay, I'm ready. If my mission is not finished, then Allah, then you do something. Then what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he took a shortcut around that universal law. And he told the fire, Kuni Ibrahim Bardan wa Salam. Be cool and easy for Ibrahim. You fast forward many years, centuries. Do we not have some cloth, some materials that are actually anti-inflammatory, that don't burn, that don't? So that universal law through the dua of Ibrahim was what? It was correct. When we make dua in these nights of Qadr, when we connect our strength to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we understand our weaknesses and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for strength, whether it be some spiritual understanding that will help us be stronger, whether it's something in this material world which will help us to be stronger and more connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask it in that sense that this is going to connect you to me. And yes, if it was simply left up to me, it may take a lifetime, or I may not even achieve that at all. But if I leave it to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will allow it to be achieved in a very short period. And so even having that ability to do that, to have, you would say, a hand, or actually having some effect in your own destiny for you. This is showing you how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this is showing you how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is uplifting the dignity, the izzah, the self-esteem, the self-respect of. Because this doesn't happen for those who do not believe. One of the very beautiful hadith of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, this related to this verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he gives Lillahi al-izzatu wa rasulihi wa lil-mu'minin. What is this izzah? What is this dignity? He says, Inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fawwada ila al-mu'min umurahu kullah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's placed the affairs of the believers in your hand, meaning that they have some means of determination. What were your affairs? And that's through our du'as, especially in these last nights of Ramadan, that you have some say, some measure, some means to help determine that. So Imam says, so yes, he's given that. He says, وَلَمْ يُفَوِّضْ إِلَيْهِ أَنْ يُذِلَّ نَفْسَهُ. He said, but there's one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he did not give to the believers. One thing that he did not put into their determination. What is that? And that is to lower their own self-dignity. Allah. You have the ability to raise your status to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's raised your status. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ, that you are high, your status is high. Your dignity, your self-respect, your self-worth, you should know it. Don't become arrogant, because then that is beyond what your self-worth is. You say Allahu Akbar every time you make so. He is giving that to you, but He hasn't given you that one thing. And that is to destroy your self-worth and dignity. That's not part of Iman. You actually move beyond and out of the parameters of Iman when we begin to degrade ourselves. Imam Muslim alayhi he also said, he said, just never convince yourself. This is a good translation. Kevin needs to talk. But he says, don't convince yourself of poverty. Don't talk to yourself that, oh, hey, I'm poor, I have nothing. He says, do not talk to yourself or convince yourself of poverty. And this is not simply material poverty. Oh, yeah, I don't have anything. But also spiritual poverty. Never degrade yourself or your self-worth, especially if you're a mu'min and you're attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or even the Ahlul Bayt. Imam Sadiq, he also teaches us, he teaches one of his companions this as well. He says, this companion who, again, materially, he didn't have much. He came to Imam Sadiq, he was like, yeah, Rasulullah, you know, I'm poor, I need some. So Imam Sadiq says, no, he says, you're actually wealthy, you're not poor. He says, yeah, Rasulullah, he says, I need to have, you know, increase my wealth, my sustenance. So Imam Sadiq told him, he says, okay. He says, so how much do you want? Do you want? He says, I'll give you 1,000 dirham, 1,000 gold coins. Is this sufficient? You know, you give me back my wilaya, you remove my wilaya from you, and I'll give you the slave. So he says, Rasulullah? He says, no. So Imam Sadiq says, okay, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 gold coins, but just give me back my wilaya, that you're no longer among our followers. And this moment, he says, no. He says, that's not worth anything. He said, I would never give that. So Imam Sadiq says, and realize that you're not poor. You're not poor. Never degrade yourself as a believer. Allah has given you dignity. He has given it to Rasulullah sallallahu. And what we seek, or what we should be seeking in the determination of our life is to remain strong and seeking things from this world, materially and spiritually, that which will keep us strong or even strengthen us. This is the teachings of Ramadhan in all its letters. So you see that when our maqsumeen, that when they are martyred, that's how their presence is missed. How their presence is missed. And subhanAllah, look at the presence of Masih. Just reflect, just for a moment. Even when we go make ziyarah, there's still one of our Masih. That their at least physical place of where their Mubarak body may be is missing. Allah. You can go make ziyarah, you know where the shrine of Rasulullah is. where the shrine of Imam Rida, the Khalidin. We know where the shrine of Imam Hussein is, Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba, Imam Zain al-Abidi, Imam Muhammad Baqir. But where is the grave of Fatima Zahra? And I say this because even today, we know where the grave of the Imam is. But his dafn was just like Fatima Zahra. That in his wasiyah to Imam Hassan Hussein, says, bury me in the night. It's stated for 100 years that the grave of Imam Ali was unknown. It was only during the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi that the grave was revealed, that where is the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. That look how lucky we are in our time, that at least we know where the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen is. But those who lived shortly after his martyrdom, they didn't know. Where's the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen? They weren't able to go with certainty and say, oh, this is the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Let me go there and let me give my respects. Why? Because this was the Madhulumiyya of Ahlul Bayt. Allah. It's stated that after the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen was buried in the night by his sons, they said that in the morning time, as according to some of the maqtal, that Imam Hassan Hussein, according to others, that Muhammad ibn Hanafiya was also with them, that as they were returning back from the burial of Amir al-Mu'mineen, because again, several graves were dug in different spots, but they actually buried them in one place and they went to other places too. Why? Because there was a fear that this Imam, and even if you didn't accept him as Imam, as a Khalif, the one who elevated the dignity and the status of the believers of Islam, that his body wouldn't rest properly if the enemies knew where his body was. So as they buried the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they covered up the other graves. As they were returning back, they heard a sound coming from one place. A sound of someone that's wailing, that's crying, that's like almost like they're yelling in anguish, like, Ya Abdullah, oh servant of God, where are you? Where are you? This is on the outskirts of the city, one lone kind of shack. So as the characteristic of their father, they went to see if somebody's in distress, somebody needs help, and let's go and see them. What can we do? What can we help this individual? What's wrong? So they go and they see this one old man who's paralyzed, who's blind, who has leprosy, living alone in a shack. Why? Because someone with that many difficulties. How many people would want to go and sit with this person? And so they asked him, they said, oh, what's happening? You sound like you're in distress. He says, yes. He says, there was one person who would come and he would sit with me. He would keep me company. And he would feed me. But he hasn't come for 3 days. And now I'm in the state, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. This is because I'm paralyzed, I can't feed myself, I can't go out of food. But he would come every day. So they asked him, this is a servant of Allah. What did this person look like? He says, I don't know because I can't see. He says, so tell me about him. What did he do? What was his name? He says, he never told me his name. But when he would sit with me, he would always say, Miskinun jalasa miskina, wa gharibun jalasa ghariba. He would say, Miskin, मिस्कीन के साथ बेटा हुआ। गरीब के पहलू में बेटा हुआ। So this poor and lonely man is coming to sit with another poor and lonely man. He says, that's what he would say. And I would hear at times, he would be in a very low whisper, praising Allah. But when he praised Allah, it was amazing. The floor, the ground, the earth, the walls, the sky, that they will also be praising and chant with his praise. That when Imam Hassan Hussein, when they heard this, they said that, oh, if this is a person who would come, that we know who this person is. The only person who was like this was our father. And the man, he asks us, who was your father? Our father was Ali ibn Abi Talib. The man was shocked. He says, this was the Khalifa? Khalifatullah, that he will come and he will sit with me. He was the one that's saying that he's miskeen and he's ghareeb, he's a lonely and miskeen individual. This is the one who would come. He asked, what happened to him? Then how come he has forsaken me for 3 days? They said, oh, servant of Allah, that he would not forsake you. Our father is not like that. But what happened to him? He was struck upon the head. He was struck upon the head, and this led to his martyrdom. That we have just buried our father. This man, he began to cry, and he asked Imam Hassan Hussein. This is the only one that right after Amir al-Mu'mineen was martyred and buried, he was the only one who knew where the grave of Imam Ali was until the Mu'mineen could know during the time of Imam Sadiq. He said, take me to the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Take me to the grave of my Mullah. They took this old man to the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. As they placed him there on the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that's say he lay down upon the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen, crying and wailing, saying that you said that you were miskeen, but I'm the miskeen, that today I am the poor and lonely person, and I don't have my poor and lonely person to sit with me. They said that this old man, he fainted, and as he was there for some time, Imam Hassan was saying, they tried to wake him up, but they realized that out of grief that he had returned back to Allah. Inna ilayhi raji'un. سيعلم الذين ظلموا وينقلبون قريبون. اللهم بحق هذا المجلس العلمي اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا واقضي حوائجنا واشف مرضانا وارحم امواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من اعوانه وانصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه تحكمنا بحق محمد واله الطاهرين.
Ya Ali Mawla, Haidar Mawla, 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 Ya Ali Mawla, Ya Ali Mawla, Haidar Mawla, Ya Ali Mawla, Haidar Mawla, Ya Ali Mawla, Haidar Mawla, Ya Ali 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 Mawla. ये जनाजा है अली का शाह खैबर गीर का, ये जनाजा है अली का, ये जनाजा है अली का शाह खैबर गीर का, ये जनाजा है अली का। बाबा मर गया है शब्बरो शबीर का, ये जनाजा है अली का, ये जनाजा है अली का शाह खैबर गीर का, ये जनाजा है अली का। जहरा के मरकज से सदाने लगी फातिमा जहरा के मरकज से सदाने लगी सदाने लगी ये मसाइब है जनाना क्या मेरी तकदीर का ये जनाजा है अली का ये जनाजा है अली का शायर है बलबीर का ये जनाजा है अली का या रसूल अल्लाह मुझे जिब्रील ने रोकर कहा या रसूल अल्लाह जिब्रील ने रोकर कहा एक हल्का और टूटा नूर की जंजीर का ये जनाजा है अली का ये जनाजा है अली का शायर है बलबीर का ये जनाजा है अली का हम अली की बेटियों का फिर ताजा हो गया हम अली की बेटियों का फिर ताजा हो गया ताजा हो गए गम अभी भूली कहाँ थी मादर दिलगीर का ये जनाजा है अली का ये जनाजा है अली का शायर है बलबीर का ये जनाजा है अली का बेटियों को देख के और रोते हैं अली बेटियों को देखते हैं और रोते हैं अली हाय रोते हैं अली हाय वो जालिम और शाम की तशहीर का ये जनाजा है अली का ये जनाजा है अली का शायर है बलबीर का ये जनाजा है अली का आज बाबा मर गया है शब्बरो शबीर का ये जनाजा है अली का अली मौला अली मौला अली मौला लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन जुल्म देख कहीं जुल्म देख कहीं दिल नबी तो नहीं लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन ये बारी किसी पे हुआ है लरज गया था बेहयात तेरी हुई है कुन की सदा फलक नो अपना फलक नो अपना तो मदनी है ज़मीन लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबीन दरस रही है नमाज़े तड़प रही है अज़ा खुदा के होने से कर्मों गया खुदा का मकान फिर सोगे बारे अली फिर सोगे बारे अली तमाम अर्श मकीन लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबी लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबी
या है किसा दिले पैगंबर पर हुआ है हालत रोजा माबारिदा देवर है दर पर बाकी से भूखा चली बाकी से भूखी चली फातिमा की हज़ीं लहू लहू है मुसल्ला
लहू लहू है जबी लहू लहू है मुसल्ला लहू लहू है जबी
सुन देखी कहीं दिल नबी तो नहीं
जाली मौला जाली मौला जाली मौला जाली मौला जाली मौला जाली मौला जाली
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيد نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا المصطفى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا شعر الله آخر لحظة لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام عليكم غريب الغرباء السلام عليكم يا منهج الفقراء السلام عليكم مغيث الشيعة والزوارق في الفداء السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا ومشكلين والكبير وادنا في الجزاء سبقنا وعلى آبائك السبع وابنات الأربع وأختك فاطمة المعصومة جميع رحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان الأمان أمان أمان السلام عليك شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان أرجو الله تعالى فرجك وسعنا تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من صارك وعليك السلام